Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. With this one, my friends, I'm going to be testing a Radeon RX 7900 XTX in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. This one is the XFX MERC 310 version of the card. I am running it with the latest AMD drivers and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power-Up's GPU-Z, and over on the left, I'm pairing it with a Ryzen 9 7950X 3D CPU with half of its cores disabled, making it the same as a 7800X 3D and 32GB of RAM. Let's get into it, shall we? And let's go over the settings first. I am starting at 4K and I'm also going to test this at 1440p and 1080p, and I'm using the Supreme settings preset down here, so everything is maxed out, but we don't have access to FSR because that's not in the game yet, or the path tracing or full ray tracing settings. Those are only available on NVIDIA GPUs. As you can see from the December 8th update, they added full ray tracing or path tracing on supported NVIDIA video cards. With a minimum of 12GB of VRAM, they're also working on supporting FSR, but they didn't include the path tracing for the AMD GPUs, apparently, guys. And it doesn't show up here on the 7900 XTX because of it. So it's a little bit of a shame, because that means that we can't really test path tracing on the XTX here. And one of the major issues about it is the shadow popping. We can't really get rid of that on AMD GPUs. Not that path tracing would run very well, because at least so far, every time I've tried path tracing on the XTX over here, which is the fastest AMD GPU, it has gone pretty badly in terms of frame rates. You know, it's usually really hard to run, but it would be decent to have that option here, at least the RT shadows, because this way we get a lot of shadow popping. But anyways, let's start counting our FPS and go down this path. This is the first initial part of the game, basically, that you will come across, and it's pretty intensive, especially compared to like the city area. It gets less FPS in this area. So everything that you see here will be done in this particular area of the map because it's more intensive, and I might check out the city area a little bit later. By the way, the cutscenes are capped to 60 frames per second, so I'm just gonna stop it right there and restart the counting system now that the cutscene is over. But yeah, it is getting 60 to 70 frames per second compared to like the 4090, for example, that was getting close to 100 frames per second. So there's definitely a big difference there, but obviously that's expected. This is also utilizing ray tracing out of the box, even without the path tracing features enabled or options enabled. Yeah, this game requires hardware ray tracing out of the box, and every GPU that doesn't have hardware ray tracing can't even launch it, which is a bit of a shame. And looking at that, I thought, yeah, maybe the AMD GPUs are going to have a rough time because, you know, when it comes to ray tracing, they're not really that great. At least in the games that support ray tracing that I've tested so far, yeah, AMD is usually not very impressive with that feature enabled. We've seen Stalker 2, for example, lately with UE5 running Nanite and Lumen out of the box, which is software ray tracing, and they didn't really run that well on AMD GPUs compared to the NVIDIA GPUs, especially the 6000 series, 7000 series. At least the XTX was only trailing the 4070 or 4080 Super, actually, by a little bit, so not too bad. But yeah, 6700 XT was losing to the 3060 Ti by quite a bit, unfortunately. But anyway, if you don't care about path tracing, the 7900 XTX is still doing a really nice job over here, guys, getting well above 60 frames per second pretty much at all times, right? Actually, sometimes it might drop into the lower 60s, like for example here. This is usually where I see it drop the most, running in this direction, 68, 67, 66. But it's not dropping from 60 FPS here in the jungle area, so it won't really drop anywhere else. And, well, you know what? Since I want to play for a little bit longer at 4K resolution, I'm actually going to the city now and showcase that. And as you can see, it is getting 85 frames per second, 80 plus basically in the city area with all of these NPCs and so on. Basically, this is the opposite. By the way, these stutters, I thought they were VRAM related on the RTX 4060 video, but apparently this has a lot of checkpoint saving. So a lot of the stutters that you see here, for example, those ones again, they are just checkpoint saves. Okay, it's very annoying actually that it happens so often in the city. So developers, please fix that. Anyway, yeah, you can see it's way less intensive than the other area. Unfortunately, we still don't have the FSR update to see if we can make it like a high refresh rate experience, for example, at 4K resolution. But as you can see, it never dropped from 60 frames per second here at 4K Supreme settings. No path tracing because it's not possible. It's unfortunate because I was looking forward to testing that, you know. But yeah, you can't enable that here. And well, FSR, oi, I'm gonna die. No, I'm not dead. Okay. FSR is also not in the game yet, but you don't need it, basically. All right, that's exactly what I said, right? I'm repeating myself. So yeah, maybe we should see Jack. I will do that at 1440p, okay? All right, guys, we're here at 1440p resolution, utilizing the Supreme settings again. Okay, no upscaling because there's none available for the 7900 XTX in this game yet. Let's start counting our frames here. We're getting 150s. That's extremely good, obviously. I mean, it's 1440p at 4K. It was already doing a very good job. Obviously, this is without the path tracing, so there's no problems whatsoever running it like this. And, I mean, if you have the XTX in this particular title, since it is a single-player game, you know, story-driven and so on, I would definitely choose to play at 4K. And even if you don't have a 4K display, maybe connect it to your TV. If you have a 4K TV, yeah, it would definitely be an amazing experience. And, well, if you want 1440p, this is still great, obviously. No problems whatsoever. It's a high refresh rate, super buttery smooth, of course. But I feel like I would value the graphics a bit more, especially at 60 plus FPS all of the time at 4K in this particular title. Still, guys, if you don't want to plug your PC into your TV because, you know, you have your machine already in place and you don't want to move it, well, at 1440p resolution, it's not going to have any issue whatsoever. 1% lows are also good, even with the little stutters, the checkpoint stutters that we keep seeing here. I feel like this video is going to be a bit smaller than usual because we don't have any upscalers to use. We don't have any ray tracing to toggle on or off. I mean, it's just native resolution here, Supreme settings, and it just works fine, you know? Oh boy, so 120 FPS, as you can see in the woods area, or jungle area actually, down into the 110s at times, so definitely way less high refresh rate of an experience than it was in the city area. But it's still going to be absolutely fine. Yeah, see, if you have enough VRAM in this title to play this title, it will work fine even on an RTX 3050. You know, I tried it yesterday actually on the RTX 3050. It worked absolutely fine. It's a good experience, even on a GPU that low end. So obviously, on a 7900 XTX, RTX 4090 and so on, 4080 Supers, which I will still test it this week, 4080 that is, yeah, it will obviously run absolutely flawlessly on these. And I really like to see that in a game that released this year. We don't usually see well-optimized titles, and this is one of them. Again, it's a shame that you need at least 8 GB of VRAM to play it well, but if you have that, it should be a smooth experience overall. And it is also a shame that the shadow render distance is so low, as you can see right there. Yeah, it just renders in as we walk and you can notice it. And also the object draw distance is also really, really low. As you can see that tree over there, yeah, you can clearly see the model changing, and it will happen pretty much with every foliage item or object in this title. It's really weird. I wish with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 presets right here, not counting the custom one, it would look better on Supreme and have higher draw distances and so on, because, you know, like, why put 6 presets inside of your game if the difference from low to the maximum is like 20 FPS? right? Anyway, guys, that's it for 1440p. We haven't seen Jack yet. God damn it. I will do that at 1080p resolution. And here we go, 1080p resolution, supreme settings still. And in this jungle area now, we're getting 130s. It feels very smooth. It still felt very smooth previously, but for some reason at 1440p with this GPU, it always selects 60 Hz with my capture card as well. Probably the capture card's fault, actually, but yeah, it's weird. Let's start counting our frames here. In the jungle area, it gets up to 160 FPS, I guess, at 1080p. I don't think if you have this GPU, you should be playing at 1080p resolution, but I've heard some people that do actually play at 1080p even with RTX 4090s, so here you go. For those of you who do, I'm here testing it for you guys, and yeah, it's getting 130 plus pretty much at all times. It's really high refresh rate experience, buttery smooth obviously, and in the city area, which I am going to right now, it will be even smoother. 200 frames per second, looking at this. Also, this is the perfect showcase for the terrible LOD on the trees. See that? See how much that changes?
Better stay away from here.
Yeah, better stay away from here. Very well said, Indy. CPU usage is going very much up there. As you can see, 80-something%. So to achieve these FPS, an 8-core 16-threaded CPU will be around 15% from being fully utilized. Okay, very interesting to see that. But full GPU usage anyways, most of the time, so no problems there. And yeah, you're going to get basically 180 FPS average, which is insane inside of the city area. Of course, no problems whatsoever. And here's Jack, by the way. Hello, buddy. Meow for us, please. He didn't meow, but he yawned. It's still very cute, right? It's even cuter than meowing, actually. So, alright guys, I think that's been it for this one. With all of that said, you now know you can play this game absolutely fine on the 7900 XTX, even though it requires hardware ray tracing to run. It's still running very well, you know. It's just a shame that we still got that shadow popping issue happening very frequently, guys. Look at that. The shadow drawing over there as we walk. The shadow draw distance can be fixed by using path tracing on NVIDIA GPUs, but we don't have it here on AMD. I wish we could have it, so please developers include it for AMD GPUs as well. At least at 1080p and 1440p we got a ton of headroom to enable that and still get decent FPS, I guess. But yeah, it's impossible to test it at the moment, and I'm not sure they will bring it to this game either. Still, guys, this is a good experience overall. Look at the bastard. Is it this Bob? Probably. He's disguising himself this time. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Love you all. Bye-bye.